Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Michelle Mayer podcast. Haven't really named it yet, but we're going to go with that. Welcome to a new edition. This is episode 2. Super excited. Want to give a disclaimer. If you find any of my content relevant, if you find it thought provoking, if you find it necessary in any way, please subscribe, please click like, and please share. If you have the means to financially support this channel, I would love to uh, accept your donations. You will find the GoFundMe link and the PayPal donation link in the information area of my YouTube page. So please go and abundantly donate. It's a tax write off, it's a blessing, and it's a multiplication of blessings. So you're using what God has blessed you with to bless me, and in turn, I will bless someone else with it by the creations that I bring forward. So on today's podcast, you guys, we're gonna be talking about. Let me get my notes here because I don't want to misquote it, but we're gonna be talking about why some don't move in any direction in maximizing on their potential and goals. I don't know if you can relate or if you know someone that can relate that you see has a calling, they have a gift that they could really that someone else could utilize and benefit from, but they don't maximize on it. It doesn't seem as if they're maximizing on it. And they're stuck in this space with it where it hasn't come to materialization. They're still in the thinking stage of it. I want to discuss that. I want to discuss why that happens because, friend, I have been there and done that. I've been there. All these things that I bring forward are things that I have been there and done and have overcome in some way, or I'm still overcoming them. Because a lot of the things in this life that we want to say we've mastered, we've only mastered one aspect of them. We haven't mastered them in their totality, and it takes for you to see another level of it materialize in your life, for it to humble you, and for you then to say, okay, I really haven't had a handle on this thing as much as I thought I did, or okay, I can empathize with someone that's going through this because now I see what it's like. See, a lot of times we we like to label stuff because it's easy that way. It's easy just to look at something from its surface level and say, "Oh, it must be that." So that's what I'm going to label it, and I'm going to go on with my life and continue on with my judgments of people. When it's deeper than that. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about overcoming the issues of just jump starting yourself and getting started in something. Um, and why we stand in front of these mountains that we stand in front of so long. Um, so let's start. For me, I'm only speaking for myself. I can't talk about nobody else and what their reasonings behind things are. But for me, friend, I'm an action oriented person. So it's different for me. If I don't move, it's because I'm confused. It's because I don't feel as if I have everything in order to get it done, because a lot of times your debut is really important as well. You don't want to debut and then have to go back and then debut again. You know what I mean? You want to at least feel confident in at least having 75% of what you want to debut intact. The aesthetics and the technological pieces for me, I can adjust. But if I know what I'm debuting, if I have a solid grasp on it, I can debut that thing without having all of those other aspects in place. That's just me though. But a lot of times I found myself stuck in situations because I just wasn't motivated. I was confused. I was fearful. I had distractions upon distractions, friend. And this is the piece of it that I want to speak to. Because whatever you are looking to bring forth, a lot of times is a game changer for people, whether it's a game changer for you or whether what your gift is will do in the earth will be a game changer for other people in a positive way. And what we have lost, what I've noticed is that what we have lost as a group of people collectively is the spiritual component. I spoke to this yesterday about us being more religious now. We have lost that fundamental spiritual component that was passed on from generation to generation in older times. See, in older times, friend, everything had a spiritual component. All of your decisions were based upon some sort of spiritual component, whether you felt like it was a word from God that gave you the ability to move forward, whether your timing was in alignment with what you felt that God said would line up for you, and that was your sign to go and move forward, and you were waiting on that sign to come to pass, or whether there were other signs that showed up in your life that, based upon spiritual components, led you to pause on acting. Everything was based upon some kind of spiritual component. Yet today, we don't move that way. We don't acknowledge that aspect of life. And it doesn't make it easier for us. It actually makes it much more difficult because that aspect doesn't go away. Just because you don't acknowledge it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's just a handicap that you've acquired because you don't know how to acknowledge it. You don't know how to spot certain things. And that's the meaning of this video, is to equip you with some form of knowledge to incorporate spiritual, more spiritual protocols instead of just ritualistic things that we do. So a lot of times, like I said, when we are ready to embark upon a journey that is your calling, whenever you get to that place in your life where, okay, I figured out what my calling is, and now I'm ready to embark upon it. It's like a bell goes off in the spiritual realm, friend. I've said this many times before. If you think, even you at your home by yourself, that you are by yourself, you are crazy. There are spirits around you at all times. I have to reference this idea that I have when using something as simple as this envelope. If you I'm not even going to go with this envelope because it's not sturdy enough. But this is a page out of my Bible. But if you speed the movement of this up fast enough, it'll disappear. Yet if it slows down, this same object will reappear and be very clear to you. It doesn't mean that it doesn't exist because it's sped up and you couldn't see it. That does not mean that it doesn't exist. In no way, shape, or form. It just means that you can't see it. And just because you can't see something does not negate the fact that it exists. Same way with spirit. You have many spirits around you at all times. Whether at work, engaging at work, whether driving in your car and thinking, whether out socializing amongst people and speaking, you have spirits all around you at all times listening. The spirit realm is more unified, and it has a stronger grip on reality than the material world. The spirit world is the world that all of this stuff materializes from. So when you're in your car driving and you're just having a great day, or you're driving and you're having a sad day based upon experiences of the day or the week or the month or whatever, and you come up with an idea, and that idea is like, oh, that's it. That's how I could fix this, or that's what I should do next, or that's what will be the next move up from this situation. Whatever that idea is, did you organically come up with that idea? Did that idea spring from just you driving? Where did that idea come from? A lot of these ideas and perspectives come from spirits. And all they do is propose an idea. just like Eve in the garden. I'm not going to go through that again, but the devil came with an idea. That's all he did. He gave her a perspective upon something, about something that she saw all the time, that she knew very well. She knew the rules of it and all of that. He just gave her a different perspective about it. He made her curious of it. It's the same thing. When you come into your calling, it's like a light comes on, but yet a light goes off in the spiritual realm as well. And this life is filled with positives and negatives. It's like a video game in the sense that you will have a nemesis. You will have something that will come to dissuade you from reaching your goal. Once that light turns on, especially then, will they come. And so you could have this wonderful idea that you've been working on and you've been fostering your whole life. And now you've been able to connect the dots and put all of it together in a way that you can offer it up to the world in a very organized way that will benefit people based upon the technology that's out here or based upon all the experiences you've accrued upon your path up until now. You've been able to come with a plan on how to effectively present this to the world. Well, as soon as you come up with that plan, counter plans began to create themselves for you to overcome. And they began to materialize in your life. And this is what has people standing in front of mountains. Doubt. Oh, I don't know. I got this idea, but it's just not the right time. Don't have the money. I got this idea, but I got all of this drama going on in my life. All of this other stuff, all of these small, immediate fires that keep popping up, that keep taking my attention away from just moving on my idea. I'm constantly putting out these small fires. I can't take one step in any direction. And then once I'm ready to take the step, I'm exhausted. I don't even feel like dealing with it because I'm so overwhelmed with what I've just been dealing with. You're demotivated. And so what we do in those instances is we stand in front of these situations for way too long. We lay in these situations and don't let them consistently show more and more distractions in your life. I mean, it could turn into a whole storm on you. And everything will be put on hold. Everything you have worked for up until that point will either go down the drain or get put on ice. Because you just don't have the wherewithal to keep at it. And the world is looking at you. A lot of times, friend, we all know that the world is looking at us and they're judging us. So you can't retreat into your cave. Because even if you retreat into your cave, somebody knows that you went and retreated into the cave. And people are going to have something to say regardless. Yet they don't understand the dynamics that are at play within you. And the things you're wrestling with that you really can't express to anyone. It's unbelievable. You really can't express it to anyone because who's going to be able to relate? And it's so personal that you don't even really feel like it's something that you should express. You haven't gotten a full grasp upon it. You can't even testify to it because you haven't even wrestled with it enough to really get a good understanding of it to authentically offer it up as a testimony to somebody else. Yet the world is watching. I bring this up because, we will label people. We will find ways to label people in these situations. Good people. People that you could actually learn from. People that are coming in and out of things that make them look easy to you. On the other end, you in the bleachers, it makes it look easy to you because they're handling them so well. Yet if you were just to look from the bleachers, you wouldn't think that they're handling them well. You wouldn't be able to understand how much they have to overcome just to get that much done. The little you're looking at, just to get that little bit done, you wouldn't even believe it. You wouldn't believe what they had to go through to get that done. Whereas if you weren't in it, you would never know. You ever been there? It's hilarious in a way, because when you come out of it, you're looking at these same people that were surrounding you while you were in it, and you're like, and they always have some sort of congratulatory thing going on, whereas they say, well, I always knew you would do it, or I was rooting you on, and this and that. And you're looking at them like, I don't know that that's true, friend. I couldn't tell. I could not tell while I was going through it. I couldn't. That's why when I look at these people, especially celebrities and people that we always go on social media and go back and forth about, and we make judgments on, I look at them differently. I look at them and I say, I wonder what about this situation do I not know? What about this are they not saying? Because I know myself in my own personal life. I've gone through some things by myself with a child, managing businesses, managing my life, managing a teenager, managing myself, trying to make sure everybody's needs are met, looking to make sure that mine are somewhat met. And I felt like I was falling apart. You know, and you got people, I've had people that were well off, that not well off, but that were doing financially better than me, and that may not have been dealing with the current state of storms that I was in, looking at me and saying, well, what is the problem? Why can't you just get it together? Not knowing all the things that I'm dealing with, mental judgments that I'm placing upon myself, confusion that I'm having as to how do I overcome this? What are the worst case scenarios? What are the best case scenarios? And then, God, what are you promising me in this? Listening to God, listening for God to give me a word on it while I'm still having to move forward. The hardest thing in the world, friend, is having to move forward in life and to keep your level of life, your lifestyle, your level of living intact while going through storms. You know what I mean? You don't have a maid. You don't have the luxury of having a cleaning lady come and clean up. You got to be the cleaning lady. You got to keep it the same way you had it before the storm came. You've got to be able to provide for your children the same way, because they're not going to understand. You don't want them to get depressed. You want to provide, you've got to provide the same level of nurturing and love for your children and your family as you did before the storm. Even though you don't know what's going on, you don't know if you're going to make it through the storm. You don't know how devastating the storm is going to be. You know how devastating it is and how it's been, but you don't know if it's going to get worse. And you're still having to stay emotionally and spiritually grounded while providing cadence and stability in the lifestyle. And then don't let you have people privy to your situation that are not in it, that are surrounded by luxuries that you just don't have. And they're saying, I wouldn't have done this. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do this. I wouldn't do that. Well, you can't say really what you would do, because you're not in that situation. You have the luxury of having it another way at this particular moment in your life. While you're looking at someone else that just doesn't have those types of luxuries. And you get a first person perspective as to how stuff could get. I'm sure many of you out there know what I'm talking about. Many of you have seen either your mothers or aunties or friends that started off one way and then they get to a certain age and they end up becoming another way. I know with my mom, I saw it. My mom was a very social person, beautiful woman, but then she got to a certain age and she just stopped. She went through something that changed her. She didn't put a lot of attention into herself. She went through a depressing state that it took her, she never really came up out of. That's just my story. I know many of you have your own stories. And I remember being a young woman and looking at it and saying, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna let that happen. Yet in my own life and being a mother and being the primary caregiver and the breadwinner of my family, I have been hit with all kind of natural disasters that have made me rethink what I thought as a young woman when I was viewing my own mother go through her own struggles. It made me be able to relate to Sandra Franklin and say, I understand. A lot of things in this life you never understand truly until you go through them yourself or something comparable. And I would say, my mom was an avid reader. I'd be like, Mom, you should write. You read so much, you should write. But she never took the initiative to do it. And I always said, I'm not gonna be the person that always says I'm going to do something. I'm gonna do it. And I made a life out of that. I'm a very action oriented person. But I've also been in situations being so action oriented that things came upon me all at once I was not able to act, friend. I was not able to maintain, and I was not able to grow. I was not able to maintain the things that I had previously acted upon, and I didn't have the motivation to, friend. And I didn't have the wherewithal to prospect out and to implement new strategies. I was too busy putting out all these little fires. I got lost in the what ifs. And I got comfortable in just settling within a certain rhythm of things. And I think a lot of us do that. A lot of us do that. A lot of us, especially when you get past a certain age. Especially when you get past your 40s, friend, it's a different game. And this 50, I just hit 50. 50 is a 40 was beautiful, but 50 is even better. Yet you experience the same struggles, friend. And things in your 50s affect you differently than they did in your 40s and your 30s and your 20s. It just does. Your wobble time increases, friend. For me it has. Now, maybe some of y'all it might not, but I'm just over here testifying to my stuff. So when I wanted to come on today to speak to that, to anybody that is going through a season in their lives where they feel like they just not motivated. They don't feel good about themselves. I've been there. I've been there too. I didn't have a positive outlook of myself, and I've always been a very secure woman. Anyone that knows me knows I'm very big on self-esteem. But I went through a stage where I was just doubtful and just really isolated. And it was because I had just been through too much stuff. I was done with it. I was tired of it all, only to continuously go through more stuff on top of the stuff you haven't even healed from. And that leads me to say this, a lot of times the people that go through these things, it's not that they don't have what it takes. It's not. Actually, it's that they have more than enough of what it takes. They can compete on levels many people can't compete on, just like that. And that's why the storms come so insurmountable upon them. It is because the offering is so abundant. You know what I mean? It's so abundant, they might not even know how abundant what they have is, because it's been a lifelong calling. It hasn't been something that they just got good at last month, especially when you get to my age. It's been something that you've been pondering and tilling for a long time. You've been in and out of experiences with. You done tried to attack at certain angles all over again and again at different times throughout your life with different people during different seasons, during under different circumstances. So you know what you know. And whether you come forward in designer or you come forward in an outfit from Target, it doesn't diminish the level of mastery you have on that thing. This is what makes your offering so unique. It's not because of what you come forward with. Those are all smoke and mirrors. That's what you do when either you need to cover something up, or you just want to polish it up. You want to polish the meat of what you have up, or you want to make adjustments so that you can make up for the lack of things that you may not have. That's when all the aesthetic stuff is great. But if you come on with some back braids and a tank top and some shorts, and your whole outfit costs you $20, the relevancy of what you say matters most. I look at the video of the gentleman that was homeless, and he was talking in the car window of those guys, and he was talking about life and overcoming life's obstacles and having the mindset of always arriving, and you just want to get to the end result only to be unhappy when you get there. You all remember that video? He's talking about the journey is where it's at. That video is exactly the type of thing I'm talking about. The abundance of wisdom that man said in that video was a lifelong lesson that he was conveying in 30 minutes. But it took him his whole life to get to that, to speak that to someone. And he said all of that with a Checkers fast food bag in his hand, hair that hadn't probably been combed and washed in months, teeth that hadn't been brushed in probably just as much as time as he combed and washed his hair or longer, and clothes that were tattered and torn. But his video went viral. His video caught the attention of millionaires and people that had many resources, that help many. It is not the aesthetics. It is the meat of what you have that makes your offering relevant. Yet those that have relevant offerings, friend, come under attack. They get hit with everything but the kitchen sink. And all of it is to slow them down. And this is where the relationship with the God within you is so monumental. These types of situations is where the relationship you have with yourself, with the God within you, becomes monumental. Because it is only this relationship and this relationship alone. There is no other relationship. There is no other God. There is no other spirit that can assist you in walking through all of these many attacks that the enemy, that the gods, that the spirits will heap upon you when it's time for you to offer up your gift. So any of you out here looking at this video that have a calling, whether a small calling that you think is just my little bitty business, or my little bitty or that little bitty thing that I'm fascinated with, that's your calling. Whether you've been standing in front of the mountain of fear, standing in front of the mountain of distractions after distractions, whether you've been standing in front of the mountain of disappointments after disappointments, or depressions after depressions, you gotta act even in the midst of those. Even in the midst of all of the craziness, you got to still act. You got to act even when you don't feel like it. Because when you don't, the enemy takes note of that. Okay, I got her that time. I got her, and she didn't act. I sent the spirit of demotivation upon her, and she didn't act. And I sent it to her in that way. That works. All those other times I sent the spirit of fear and the spirit of confusion and the spirit of anxiety and the spirit of this and the spirit of that. It didn't work. But that spirit of demotivation in that particular way works with her. Let's keep sending that. And all of those things will constantly appear to you because it works. You got to be just as crafty and creative as the enemy. You must still act in the middle of it. While you're being judged, while you're being ridiculed, while you're being whatever, while you're being praised, while you're being liked, while all eyes are on you, and you don't really want people paying attention to you, you must still act. Because you're not always going to feel that way. That season will pass. And you will have created a body of work that you can build on. Not for anyone else, which even though it's a blessing for other people to be able to reflect upon your body of work and benefit from. But really, for you to be able to look back and say, this is what I have accomplished. This is what I have laid bare as an offering. My life is valuable. There is value in what I do. There is value in my existence. Because at a certain time in your life, being valuable is your greatest commodity, friend. Not your looks, not, your personality and how you light up a room and all that. That's great too. But what value are you bringing? And how do you continue to keep going in the face of insurmountable challenges? People's judgments, people that are judging you on things that they themselves couldn't even overcome. They don't even know the severity of what you're dealing with. Yet they're judging you. They have luxuries. Well, she needs to do this and do that, and she needs to, and they have people doing this and doing that for them. They are blessed with the luxury of having people to do this and do that for them in the middle of their storms. But during the middle of your storm, it's just you. You got to keep everything the same. And people are watching you and they're noticing, okay, she's falling off in that aspect. Okay, she's falling off in that aspect. And instead of giving you an encouraging word, they low key subliminally try to dish you or tear you down. Only for them to find themselves eventually in a situation similar, if not exactly like yours, but similar, because we all have storms that come upon us where they will struggle with something, maybe not the same thing because they have people that do those things for them, but maybe they'll struggle with something else that you would have overcome easily. This is how life is. So you don't take it personal. All of these things, all this are things that you must overlook and forgive, because the forgiveness and the ability to overlook doesn't do anything for anyone but yourself. It frees you up, it lightens you up so that you can still ascend and you can still receive the blessings and you can still reach that level of peace that you have become so accustomed to reaching. Because anything outside of that is way too heavy. If you don't know yourself enough and you don't know how to handle the storms of life, it's okay. This is where experience comes in at. You don't get to a place where you just overcome all the storms of life each time they show themselves. No, there must be trial and error with anything you perfect. There will be times that you will buckle. There will be times that you will retreat and you will settle for less. And you will wander around in that wilderness of less than, only for it to be uncomfortable for you. And you'll spend time there and you'll remind yourself of what it felt like when you were trending to what you really desired. And you'll remind yourself that you're better than less than. And you need to get back on the road of what I desire. And use all the experiences you had in your last failure to act as resources to help you overcome the next time. Because they're going to show themselves again, friend. And all you're going to do is capitalize on those experiences so that you can face those challenges and overcome them the next time. And maybe the next time you might not overcome them either. But you'll get that much further within wrestling with them. So that wherever you land up in and you wander, after a season, you'll remind yourself of how great it feels to be doing what you truly desire, and you'll wander back. And you'll try your hand at it in a different way. And you'll wrestle with it a different way. And you'll use all those experiences you got in wrestling with them those 2 previous times, this 3rd time. And whether you win or lose, because there is no losing, whether you win or you have to wander around for another season, you'll have that much more experience under your belt until eventually you will arrive at a place where you are formidable and you have enough experiences and you got enough wherewithal and you're more adamant because you're not about to be wasting no more time at this. And you secured yourself with the God within you because it was the God within you that you had to utilize to get out of the situations each time they presented themselves up to this point. Now you're formidable and you're strong. And here you come. And you're able to weather the storms because you weathered all them small ones before then. You're able to deal with all the chatter and all of the noise of people and all the chatter and all the noise of the mind. Because you dealt with all the chatter and all the noise of the people before. You did all of those things to try to avoid the ridicule. You did all of the things to try to avoid people from noticing and from people from judging you. And now you are at a place where you don't give a dang if they notice or not. I don't care. I haven't come this far to be defeated. No. I'm not about to go wander another 40 years in the wilderness. I don't have 40 more years to wander. This. And you offer up to those that are wandering, those that are not motivated, those that you see without even knowing their names. You can see them. You can smell it. You're wandering. You're wandering in the wilderness, friend, because I've been there too. And I remember when I was wandering, I remember all those other people that I saw wandering right with me. We could spot each other. And you offer them a helping hand. You don't be like the people that judged you while you were wandering. You don't multiply the negatives. You multiply the positives. You offer up a perspective, and the perspectives are that you can do it. Keep at it. Don't worry about it. Sometimes you got to put everybody on mute and just go within. God loves you, and it is the love of God that will sustain you through all the many hills and valleys of this life. That is the secret sauce. Simplify the things that you found so confusing. Make them simple to help people save some time. That is the point. That is the point. That's it. Not to judge nobody, not to say you're bad because you did that, and you're better because you didn't do that. Not to say none of that. To overlook all of that and say, okay, I can relate to it. I noticed this and I noticed that, but we're not going to harp on that. I'm speaking to what you can do to overcome this situation because I did it. And this is what worked for me. You could take it or leave it. And if you heard of anything better, by all means go and use it. But this is just what got me through. That's the part. And that's what happens when you keep going. That's what happens when you don't let the spirit of depression and demotivation overcome you. You don't want to get to a place where you're having constantly a pity party about your life. You got to get to a place where you face things for what they are. You don't want to be 50 and 60 and 70 having a pity party and sitting over there nursing your wounds over things that happened to you when you were 5 and 10. You got to get to a place where you face them. And you say, okay, I might not like my life right now, but dang it, whatever I don't like, I have lived long enough to know that I can change it. And let's start today in changing it. Whether it's, whether it's immediately start to showing more love to myself. Immediately. Whether it's, if you're depressed and your house is messy, whether it's just starting in one room, one area, whether it's taking some time to get back to loving yourself and polishing yourself off, you will immediately begin to feel better. Immediately. And that does not mean that all of the nonsense of life ever stops. It probably won't. But you have been fixated on a certain way of navigating it. And it doesn't have to make anybody else happy. It just needs to make you happy so that you can continuously ascend and get better. Period. And if that means, discontinuing your activities with certain people for a time, then you need to do that. And if you can't discontinue your activities with certain people for a time and they continuously want to come and see about you, then they're going to have to deal with whatever it is that they come and see. They chose to do that. They were not invited. So it's not your job to appease everybody that takes it upon themselves to come and be in your presence. You got to do you. You got to heal yourself. You've got to. I've been an avid people pleaser. Trying to please people, thinking of people. Oh, did I say that right? Maybe I should have said this or it's endless. All the while you thinking to yourself, after you get to a point, you think to yourself, did they think of me? Do they care? Do they care how I feel? I'm pouring into these people. Do they even care how I feel? You got to get to a point where you begin to love yourself. And taking a step, even though frightening, makes you that much more capable of taking the next step. And it becomes repetitious for you. This is my podcast talk for y'all today. Again, this is a grassroots effort, y'all. I'm not a professional at this yet. So this is all coming from the heart. I come forward with testimonies that I have lived through, that I'm currently living through, that took me years to get. Years. That I struggled with. I'm telling you. Struggled, wrestled, stayed up at night, cried myself to sleep, woke up, cried to sleep again over for many times in my life. And that's why I find them relevant to bring to the table now as testimonies to someone, even if one person gets it. You love more than you'll ever know. This is your life. This is not a dress rehearsal. The time is now. It is now. I myself have been an action-oriented person my whole life. I am a go-getter. But I'm telling you, some storms have come upon me at times in my life where they stopped me in my tracks. And if it wasn't the love of God to redirect me, or to force the storms to stop me and to redirect me in another direction, I'd still be standing in front of other mountains, or I'd still be wandering around in the wilderness. All these things that come upon us in life are to structure us and to make us better, to bring out that which is already there, and to pull it forward, to strengthen us. They are not to overcome us and defeat us. That is an enemy mindset. That is a victim mindset, and we are not victims. You must change your viewpoint on them. You are capable. You are ordained through the blood that runs in your veins. Do you know who you are? Do you know who walks with you? You are only as powerful as you think you are. You are only as powerful as the God that rests within you knows you are. And your ability to align with the God that is within you and to allow it to move within your life and to direct your paths is your biggest asset and your strongest line of protection in this life. You take the first step, the next step will appear, and so on and so forth. You're loved more than you'll ever know. I'll never stop telling you. Be good to yourselves and be good to each other. Peace and love.